You know the Democrats are in trouble when even Chris Matthews is throwing cold water on the polls, supposedly showing that President Trump is underwater. So this past week, there's been an onslaught of polls claiming that President Trump is at his lowest or second lowest rating in either of his terms. The most notable of these is from Gallup. But even Chris Matthews is claiming that the exact opposite is happening, that the country is actually turning towards President Trump. Take a look at what Chris Matthews had to say.
With you, the country is moving towards Trump. I mean, these polls that come out and show him not doing well, I don't buy that. I think his strength is still greater than the Democratic strength. He is a stronger public figure than the Democratic people. I mean, Obama still has tremendous charisma, but Trump has strength. And I think that's what all voters look for. But they want a president who is a strong figure. And he's got it. And he can, it's just there. And half the country buys it. That's what I think.
Yeah, that is the exact same Chris Matthews who was on MSNBC years ago talking about a tingle going up his leg when Barack Obama was running for president. Chris Matthews has always spun things for the Democrats' advantage, for the Democrat benefit. So when even he is saying, nope, I don't buy these polls, you know the reality is even worse for the Democrats. In fact, one of the top pollsters, Matt Towery, went on Fox News. He was talking with Laura Ingraham, talking about, hey, these polls are coming out, but those of us who have been accurate this entire time, we've been shunned from the polling industry. In fact, there are multiple pollsters. I went through them during the election cycle. Atlas Intel was one of them, and they've basically been spot on the last few times, especially in the era of Trump. Take a look.
The overall approval rating, one was 42%. That looked kind of low to me, but overall, people are generally seem to be pretty happy.
Well, it is low. And let me tell you, there's a war that takes place. You talk about the media. There's one among us pollsters as well. Those of us who poll Trump very well and have been accurate, oftentimes our polls are shunted to the side. And instead, you get like a Gallup poll. Gallup used to be very good at doing presidential approval. They're not anymore. They're certainly not with Trump. 38% approval, that's a joke. So really, when you look at polls, it's almost like when you look at the old legacy media versus the new media and the conservative media. It's two different worlds. And trust me, Donald Trump's at above 50% approval, majority approval in this country. Take it from me, I'm right.
And look, there are multiple ways that pollsters can manipulate their polls, right? Aside from who they poll, who the demographics are of who they choose to include in their sample, it's also important to consider how they phrase the questions. And especially with so many controversies when it comes to Epstein or things like that, the pollsters can really manipulate that. Like, I've seen a lot of mainstream media analysts really perplexed that President Trump's approval rating among Republicans is still at 90%. Now, multiple things can be true at once. People like me, I want more transparency on the Epstein files. I want more information to come out. I am not happy. I've been clear about that on the channel. I'm not happy with how the Epstein files and Pam Bondi have handled that so far. But that doesn't mean that I regret voting for President Trump. That doesn't mean that I'm going to vote for Democrats. That doesn't mean that I don't like what President Trump has done on the border or when it comes to the economy. So if I were asked by a pollster, which, by the way, I've never been called by any of them, I would say that I approve of President Trump, even though I might, have differing opinions on different issues. And when we take a look at the demographics, it's pretty clear that President Trump is still doing great among different demographics that Republicans are used to, right? He won the highest share of the minority vote. Youth really flocked for him. Young males flocked towards him during the election. Well, speaking of the youth, over at Comic-Con this weekend, the creator of The Simpsons made a prediction, and his prediction was that the youth are going to save America. Basically, the youth are going to save their Republican parents from the cult of MAGA. And he thought he was making a point, and the audience cheered, but it really exposes the dangerous philosophy and ideology of the left. See if you catch on to the same thing I noticed.
A prediction. The Simpsons predicts kids across America will liberate the Republican parents from the cult of MAGA, and here's how you do it. Grab the TV remote, go to menu, go to controls, parental controls, then edit channel list, then delete Fox News. mental happiness will result.
Multiple things to point out there. Number one, he says mental health, peace, happiness will result. We do know, thanks to the data, that leftists and Democrats suffer more from mental health issues than Republicans. Now, I get mental health is a real thing, so I'm not making fun of that. I'm just saying that there is something the left is doing that triggers these mental crises among their base. So I don't think what he's saying is true there. But he also was making a joke, but it really exposed what the left thinks. He's saying that the kids should delete and ban Fox News. Basically, what he's promoting is censorship. And we know the left is all about censorship, controlling information, controlling the narrative, shaping the facts that you are allowed to get. That's why they're so upset about podcasters, the internet, and basically anything that gets information straight to the people instead of having people rely on the traditional gatekeepers and the filters like the mainstream media. So he's wrong on a lot there. And look, at the end of the day, the reason the Democrats want to ban information, the reason they want to ban alternative voices, especially right now, is because they have nothing else to offer. They have no alternative. They have no vision for America. All they have is President Trump, orange man, bad, bad, bad. That's all they do. Meanwhile, President Trump is following through on his promises, like 99% of them, and he's getting a lot of success along the way. One of those things, just breaking earlier today, he was able to strike a trade deal with the European Union. Take a look at this moment.
You're known as a tough negotiator and deal maker. What is in front? And fair. And what is in front of us?
That's less important.
If we are successful, I think it would be the biggest deal each of us has ever struck. So I'm very much looking forward.
Ever struck by anybody? That's true. Yeah. That's true. Right now we have that honor goes to Japan. We just struck a deal with Japan, as you know. And we're very close to a deal with China. We really sort of made a deal with China, but we'll see how that goes. And we have numerous other deals. And mostly I'm just going to charge tariffs. And, you know, it's not a deal per se, but people are going to pay tariffs. And we're doing them at the low end, not the high end, because we don't want to hurt anybody. And pretty well, but you and I both figured this is really the biggest trading partnership in the world, so we should give it a shot, right?
Yeah. Very much looking forward to that.
Oh, thank you very much. I do too.
And by the way, their negotiations were successful. Even the New York Times was forced to report on this. That, by the way, was the president of the EU, Ursula von der Leyen. According to the Times, the president of the European Commission confirmed that a 15% across-the-board tariff will apply to many products. But here is some even better news. Both sides will drop tariffs to zero on these critical things like aircrafts and plane parts, certain chemicals, certain generics, semiconductor equipment, and certain agricultural products and critical raw materials. But my favorite part of this deal is that she confirmed that Europe will buy $750 billion worth of energy, American energy, over 3 years. She also clarified the logic behind the time frame. It will happen during President Trump's term. Compare this to Joe Biden. When the Russia-Ukraine war was heating up, where was Europe getting its energy from? Oh yeah, they were buying energy from Russia, and they were reliant on Russia. That's why it was such mayhem, and that's why there was such panic when the war really took off. So now, instead of the EU lining Russia's pocket and essentially, funding their war machine, we're going to get that income. I think it's a great move. Now, obviously, the press was there, and there was a Q&A, and one of the European reporters apparently took his cue from the American press and asked whether or not this trade deal was done to distract, you guessed it, from Epstein. But before I show you that clip, I would like to acknowledge Prince and Cullinan Sinayin Chusol 731, Bart Denny, Peanuts, and Shine On 83. Shine On definitely getting some treats for the cats. Thank you so much. These are people who have given super thanks and tips to the channel. So glad that you enjoy. But anyways, this reporter asked President Trump about Epstein, and let's keep in mind that President Trump was talking about these trade deals. He set the deadlines months ago, way before this Epstein controversy bubbled up to the surface.
August 1st and beyond. Okay?
Mr. President, was part of the rush to get this deal done to knock Jeffrey Epstein's story out?
Oh, you got to be kidding with that. No, had nothing to do with it. Only you would think that. That had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, like I said earlier, no matter what you think about the Epstein controversy, and I know there are a lot of people who are upset about how it was handled, yes, including Republicans, including MAGA voters, I think when you take a look at everything from these trade deals to the border to the highest recruitment rate in the military in the last few years, you take a look at it and there's a lot to be happy about. So I'm not surprised that President Trump's polling numbers are where they are. However, the inverse, the opposite is true. The Democrats are dropping. It would be one thing if the Democrats were consolidating their base and their base was holding strong, but nope, they are just sinking like a rock. And who knows where the bottom is? And they were even forced to admit this on CNN.
It feels like every few weeks a new polling organization comes out with a poll saying Democrats are at the lowest level they've ever been. And the latest was Wall Street Journal. Democratic approval ratings hit a record roll. 63 of voters having an unfavorable view of your party. What does your party need to do to climb out of that?
I have to speak to two issues that just came up here. What I regret around the Epstein files is nobody talks about the victims. We need truth, transparency, and justice. Every time we talk about this, these now adult women, they were children. Let's remember this.
Yeah.
Many of them were children who were trafficked.
That's the whole
who were
reason.
Raped,
there needs to be
assaulted.
justice for these women.
Justice for the women.
Yeah.
They are just re-victimized every single time. Release the files. It isn't just Maxwell and Epstein who knows what happened here when you traffic hundreds of girls and women. On the polling, I haven't seen polling that shows the president at 90% of anything.
Well, with Republicans, among Republicans.
Some small slice of Republicans. Even his base is getting very upset with him over Epstein and the conspiracies and the failure to be transparent. What do I make of that Democratic, the poll? Yes, we're in the doghouse yet again. What I see and what I hear from my constituents, whether I'm answering the phone in my office or I'm out at the supermarket, everybody is anxious, upset, worried. They're worried about Gaza. They're worried about war crimes in Ukraine. They are worried about tariffs. They can't plan because businesses can't plan. They're also now worried about things they weren't worried about. Medicaid. Tens of thousands of my constituents are at risk of losing Medicaid support, whether it's for substance abuse or for their disabled child. So they're worrying about things they didn't have to worry about before, and they see a president not solving the big issues that are, some of them, very man-made, like Gaza.
So notice how she focused. The question, right, was about Democrat Party polling being awful. The Wall Street Journal, the worst polling of 35 years. Many others, including CNN, saying the worst polling in Democrat Party history since they've started taking these polls. And what does she do? She immediately starts talking about Epstein, number one. Number two, when she acknowledges the poll and says, oh, what can we do differently? She starts talking about Gaza. As if that's a priority for Americans. She starts talking about the war in Ukraine as if that's a priority for Americans. I mean, they are just so lost in the wilderness. And instead of coming back to the middle, they are relying on the most fringe portions of their base. And it's no wonder why they keep doing worse and worse and worse. But as always, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That is what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So during the election cycle, they say one of the questions that's actually the most accurate is, who do you think your neighbors are going to vote for? Because the theory here is that, you know, people might not be honest, or they may be afraid to talk to a pollster. They might not answer the phone. But when people start talking about who everyone around them is voting for, some pollsters find that reliable. Obviously, this is not a scientific poll, but I'm just curious. What do you think your neighbors think of President Trump? Do you think most of your neighbors approve, or do you think they disapprove? Feel free to answer that however you want in the comments. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.